It is time for our Hot Worlds devlog. If you're new to the channel, I'm making a beat 'em up slash fighting game. Someday I'll think of a more snappy way to describe it, but for now it's going to have to do, alright? Last 2 weeks have been, I'm not going to say I'm stagnating, but I'm making different progress than I wish I was making. But this game, I believe it's going to live and die on how many characters I can make, how many moves they'll have, and how good the animations are going to be, how many enemies there are, all that. I'm working on these characters myself. So I said, how am I going to do this, man? How am I going to make all these characters? I'm going to have 9 playable characters. How am I going to do that? It's crazy, right? It's crazy talk. No. I think I've solved the problem, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to walk you through what I do and what I need to change. Okay, let's see. So I'm using the Godot engine, and I'm using Aseprite for the characters. So where do I start? I have a little sketch that I do by hand of a character, and then I scale them up. I break the pieces off into rigs. So I break them down. I scale them up and I break them down into rigs. I'm using a smooth scaling plugin for Aseprite called Advanced Scaling. It's on itch.io. It's great because pixel art, you can't really scale it up. It's not like doesn't work well. So you gotta do something to smooth it out. And I'm not gonna draw all that shit for every single character. So I break them into pieces and I scale them up, and then I export that. And I have written a utility in Godot that is composed of a couple different parts. So I have these scaled up like rigged puppets with inverse kinematics on them, and I make whatever animations. Let's see, what's a good one? Boxside 10 kits. Okay, so I make the animations, right? With inverse kinematics, it's so easy. You just go and you grab it and you move the hand around. But it's not going to look good for a pixel art game, right? Like this is the Darkest Dungeon look. You know, it's fine, but it's fine. No hate on people who make games like this. You know, I've seen plenty of beat 'em ups with the rigged puppet animations, but it's not the look I'm going for. I want that nice choppy pixel art where you can see the frames. It looks hand drawn. And you know, it's kind of hand drawn. It's close. It'll be. I'm gonna have to go over the top to make. This is how they do it in King of Fighters too, man. Like they didn't draw every single frame just strictly by hand. They rotoscoped it from 3D models. Like, you know, in the past they probably did draw each frame by frame. They probably rotoscoped some of it with people too. Like, you know, they did that in Street Fighter. You gotta take shortcuts with this shit, dude. You can't just be blasting it out. So yeah, so there's some problems with this, you know, foreshortening doesn't work, but for the most part, these are real easy. I can bust one of these out in 10 minutes. So I have that, and then I have all of my other characters inheriting from this, so they all share the animations. So like I don't want them to all share every single animation, but some of it, like, you know, a punch, you can just be a punch. I don't need to go crazy. They can use some of the same moves. It's fine. So I have all these, and they're all inherited scenes from this top level one, so they all share it. All of the rigs are in the same place, so you can just drop any new character in and create a new rig for them, and the regions are all set up the same for all these pieces. So and these all have like different frames of animations. Like the region is a horizontal region, so then you can go here and you can change your expression by using a different frame. And you can change the angle and stuff, so it's, you know, it's a little more flexible than just cut out puppet like you usually have. But so I get that, and then I have this utility part. What you can do in Godot is you can use a viewport to capture an image of anything you put inside the viewport. I don't know what this skin colored bar is doing here. It's like, it's been showing up, but it's not into the viewport, so it's fine. It won't get exported. But anyway, so what I do here is I have this utility that has all my characters in it, and I have it set up so that it'll play each of their animations for each move they're going to use. And I have it set up differently. So like Val does like a boxing idol, and she's like doing the Muhammad Ali shit. And then Rod's like a rock star, so he's just playing guitar while he's fighting. So their idols are different, but I can set it up so that they use a different animation there, but they can use the same ones for everything else. So I don't need to go through and create every single new animation. Kind of like, you know, it's the effect of 3D modeling without having to actually do a stupid 3D model. So I get all that. What's going on over here is this is queuing up the animations because you don't want to be like, oh, I missed this part. So the way that I decide what screen is actually going to get capped is I use a method track in an animation player that has this key method, and the key method sends a signal to this utility that tells this viewport to capture the image. And then that image is a resource. It gets queued up. I get a big array of a bunch of image resources that are screenshots of the screen. And then I hit this button, and it dumps them all into a folder. Yep. Dumps all the PNGs into a folder. And they're named in a specific way that is a secret trick that will help us later. There we go. So in Aseprite, if files are named with a suffix of the same number, and you open one, it'll open them as a animation. So then I get my 300 frames of animation, and I go and I select all of them. 304 frames of animation. Yep. So then I get all of them, and then I go into this character master, and I'm not going to do this because I just did it, and I don't need to export them again, but so then I go in here, and I can just drop them in right on top. I guess I can do it, whatever. Yeah, it worked out perfectly. It's right at the end. Okay. So now we have all Ra's animation. So I can go in here and I could change his whole, you know, I could turn him red. It's like red is going to be an alternate costume, but I've tweaked his model since I made an alternate color for him. So I could, you know, like Val has that, her base costume, and then she has a hoodie that is her alt costume. So doing all that is really easy because you can just like change the sheet. Shouts out to Cosmigo was his name, Jan Zimmermann. I'll link this fan in the description. You gotta watch this guy's video. It's like he taught me all this. Not personally. He made the video that taught me this. This is saved me hell of time, man. And it would not have been possible without Godot either. Okay, so I have that. And then what you can do, how do you get from here? You can make sprite sheets, right? In Aseprite, you can go and export a sprite sheet. There's lots of options sprite sheets give you. You can pick out which group and which layer you want. So that's how I keep all of them in the same sprite sheet. So there's a reason I put all the things in one file. That I want these tags. The tag tells you which animation, like, you know, the idle animation is these 4 tags, and it has to be spaced the same. In order for it to work, because the way I have my actual fighters, so I have a base fighter object, and I just use Val because she's the main character. So this looks very similar to the rig, but the difference is it is frames. It's not smooth, you know. So this is looking more like classic pixel art. And the other thing I did here, you can see on this one, and I didn't fill in her ponytail, but. So this is another thing they do in like Street Fighter and King of Fighters, the way they make them look not like 3D models. Like they look so realistic, but not quite like 3D models. Like it looks hand drawn. They do hand draw. They draw over the top of their projection, their 2D projection of their model. So that's what I did here. I draw in her ponytail on top of it so that we can do some cool effects. Here's one of my favorites. So I'm gonna do more than just the. Oh, what? Oh man, it's screwed up. Never mind. Oh yeah. Well, the sprite sheet got screwed up, but like she does a splits and then her ponytails go down. I like that one. But yeah, so I'm gonna touch these up more. For now I just added, and that doesn't look, that looks like crap, but whatever. I'm gonna keep touching these up, and you'll see why. But anyway, so that's how I get to this, and then that gives me a character, and each of the other fighters inherit from this base scene. So as long as all the frames are the same in the sprite sheet that we export, like, get a sprite sheet, as long as all of the frames for each of the moves are in the same place, like, even though Rock's idle is different than Val's idle, they're in the same place so they can reuse the same animation. And he can jam out. He can rock out. There he goes. He's missing some animations because of the work I've been doing. It's all screwed up. Anyway. Oh, so another thing, I really glossed over this. So in Aseprite, if you've used Aseprite, know about export sprite sheet. It's simple, but it could be simpler because, like doing it once is fine. But what if I'm tweaking that animation over and over? I don't want to have to go in here every time and click export sprite sheet and pick the right layer. And if I do everybody at once, then I have to go through here and click 10 times because I got 10 characters. That's going to be a nightmare. So luckily, Aseprite has command line tools, and one of their command line tools is this sprite sheet exporter. So you can do anything that you can do in this window via command line. So I made all of these commands that export each character. And another thing that's important here is, I only learned about this recently. There's this JSON data that you can export, this metadata thing. And you can give it information on how you want to have the JSON tags, and you get a file like this out. And this tells you where the frames are in your sprite sheet. So in Godot, you can just give it like a number wide and tall, like how many frames are in this. But this gives you some more options, and I'll show you why. Let's see if I have something smaller. So let me show you something else you can do. But I'm not using this yet, but someday I'm going to try, because, man, this would save so much space. Okay, see this? So this is an option you can do. Sheet type packed. So this will take your sprite and it'll trim down each frame and smash them together and save as much space as possible. All the empty space will get cut out. So initially something I was worried about was running out of like vertical space or horizontal space, because like I was not sure how to lay out all my sprites in the sprite sheet and animate them in a way that would let me do that inheritance thing. This would be amazing. And basically when you to use this packed sheet like this, you kind of need this JSON file, because they're all going to be different sizes. If your sprites are even a little bit different, they're going to be different squares, and then you're going to have to line them back up. So what you can do with this JSON is you can define the region, the actual content of the frame you want, and you can arrange it correctly in the right position so that you can save a bunch of space in your file, and then loading the file is better. It's just all around better. But for some other, for the inheritance reasons, I'm not doing that yet, but I possibly will once I get things more locked down. So I run this, and this dumps all of the characters right into their correct, into their folders, and Godot picks them up automatically, and then I have them in the game. And that's the whole process. That's the process for the graphical component, and that's been working. I've had that for a long time. But you'll also notice I have this hitbox back there. This is where things get a little more complicated. So get one that's actually good. This only has 2 frames, but yeah. So I have to define all these hitboxes, right? And when I started doing this, I was going into Godot and doing these all manually. I was clicking in here and picking this hitbox and changing the size and moving it around on the frame and then keying it. Oops. And then I key it, and then I pick the time, and then I scooch it around. And that's fine if you're not gonna like iterate on it all a ton. But as I start making more moves, and wanting to change the hitboxes and change the frame data. Because like, so another thing is like, okay, this is coming out on frame 6. What if I need to tweak it a little bit and I don't want it to come out on frame 6? Like, this is where things start to get really, really finicky. So here's what I did. I made a utility, second utility that goes along with the sprite sheet exporter. So this utilizes a feature that I showed off in another one of my Godot videos, creating animations in code. So what this does is it goes out, it grabs the Aseprite metadata file for just one of the sprite sheets. Because for now, to make things easier, I'm exporting all the sprites with the same padding so that I can use the same metadata for all the sprite sheets. They all have the same number of frames. They're all the same size, so I only need one. It creates these. On the left, this is telling it which what animations it found in Aseprite, and over here is telling what animations I have in the animation player. So these are the final animations. So this will let me import that stuff manually. The problem is it doesn't know what times to put the frames at. Aseprite will let you define durations. So it's what, 100 milliseconds. So I can do, that make this frame last for a second. I don't want to have to go in here and type in every single thing. It's going to be such a pain. I'd much rather be able to just, drag this around in here. So the problem with that is when I'm generating these animations, I don't know what time I want these frames to be at. So every time I regenerate all my animations, I would have to go in and fix all the frames. So what I did, so I created another utility. Initially, I had this just for dealing with the stats of the moves. Oh, it's not loading though. So it broke. So that what that does is it loads all the frame data and the timing for everything for the hitboxes and the damage. So it lets me save the times of my keys to a file. So I scooch around my keys, and then I hit that save anims in the move editor, and then that generates this file, which keeps track of the time key times where those frames need to go. So I can still use Godot's awesome little animation thing, but now I have the record of it. So when I am importing the frames from the Aseprite metadata file, I still know where to put them. And this is what I've been working on. This generating of the animations contextually. So I have that working where I can bring them in and it'll remember what time to put the frames at. And the other thing I've been doing, since I don't want to have to really drag around all those little collision boxes, I have created a couple of layers in Aseprite where I just draw rectangles. And these are, the only thing about this is they're the same for each character, which I'm not crazy about. I would like to be able to do hitboxes that are specific to specific characters, but that's going to come later because for now it works way easier if everything can stay inherited. As long as the only thing that I draw in the frame is the hitbox, this metadata file for the hitbox layers gives me the exact shapes of the collision boxes that I need. I don't bother with the sprite sheet for this. All I need is the metadata because it gives me rectangles. So then I can go in here, and as part of the generating of the animations, I insert keys that set the extents of the rectangles and the position of the rectangles so that it matches up with the shapes I draw in Aseprite. So it is so easy to just go into Aseprite and grab the rectangle tool and go and add a hitbox. And I can put all my characters up and I can see, okay, that's going to be, so he screwed up because I copied over his sprite like I said I wasn't going to do, but whatever. As you can see, it's really easy to iterate on, so I can fix that up real simple. And yeah, just gotta polish. So yeah, so this has made it really, really easy to iterate on the sizes of the hitboxes for each of the characters for all these 40 moves. I don't know how many moves I have yet. 300 frames of animation across 10 characters. 3,000 frames of animation. Yeah. Yeah. So that's almost all good. Now it just needs to all get lined up, and I need to make sure that when I hit import, it's scary because I'm like, every time I'm risking erasing and throwing out all the animations I already did. So I basically just, I'm trying to get it to the point where I am confident that I don't have to touch anything, and I can always regenerate all the animations from scratch as long as I have this Aseprite and the saved keys, the move stats that tell me the damage and stuff, and the Sprite region metadata. As long as I have those 4 files, like those 4 JSON files and the sprite sheet, I want to be able to generate all of these animations by clicking all these couple buttons, and it's so close. But every time I do it, there seems to be like a little tiny problem, like this one. This one's a great example. This hitbox is out, but it's disabled. So I need the move editor to be putting in, that should be the active frame, right? So like she's using her little side whip thing. So this needs to have those 2 in there, and right now it doesn't. I'm gonna have to go in and figure out why. I don't know why. Man, who knows, dude? Could be anything. So that's what I've been doing for the past week and a half. I really wish it would be over. Really sick of it. So close I can taste it. But oh yeah, the other thing I did was, I wasn't gonna do this, but I decided to port my game to the 4.0 beta. I couldn't resist. I saw lambdas. I saw multiplayer spawners, network spawners. This game, it needs to have multiplayer on release. It needs to have online multiplayer. I was thinking about like, oh, I can do it in early access and have a local multiplayer only, and just no. This has to have online. I can't, like, there's no amount of, if I have to sell my soul to get this to have online on release, and I'm gonna have to do early access for this kind of thing, because like if I'm gonna balance all that frame data, like I'm gonna need testers, buddy. I'm not even good at fighting games, so I don't know why I'm doing this, man. I feel like I barely know what I'm doing with like canceling. The hell is canceling, man? Push a button and everything stops. I don't know. Don't ask me what canceling means. I put in canceling. I don't know if it's what it's supposed to be, but it's in there. Somebody else gonna have to tell me. Anyway, so 2 days ago I was trying to port to Godot 4, and I got it in and I got it working, and then I tried to switch tabs, and it took 3 seconds to just open another scene and switch tabs, switch between one scene and another scene. And I was like, what the hell? I opened up Task Manager. It was using 600 megs, and Windows, as usual, was running the anti-malware, Windows Defender anti-malware service that is impossible to turn off without scary third-party utilities. And I was running at about 90% capacity on my RAM. My CPU was fine. I got 8 cores. And then I remembered, I looked into it. I only have 8 gigs of RAM in this thing. What the fuck am I doing? I'm like trying to edit videos and like do sound and run all this, like, it's not a very heavy application, but man, 8 gigs? What am I living like 15 years ago? I don't know how I never went more than 8 gigs. I don't know. Like, I got an 8-core processor and 8 gigs of RAM. What the fuck? So I ordered 32 gigs of RAM off eBay, and it's coming. So I've just been kind of screwing around. I want to make some videos in the meantime, but I don't want to do too much more work on this because I gotta move to 4. Like, there's no asking anymore. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I got it ported in a day. It took me all day, but I had to go through with Visual Studio and do find replace all a bunch of times. It helped a lot. If you're going to port your game to Godot 4, get something outside that lets you find and replace, and run your code, and it'll give you errors, and it'll say use this new method, and then you go and you do find replace and find all the method and then switch it with a new method. That's like the only way you're going to do it. You're going to be pulling your hair out otherwise. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm feeling good about it. Big things coming next week. I'm going to blast out some more videos for y'all. Peace.